Hello and welcome to True Audiophiles Record Store Day edition. So I'm going to go over the things that I got on Record Store Day. I want to first give a shout out to those that are in the Northeast in the US where it was very cold. It was rainy and snowy and sleet, freezing rain, just nasty weather. So for those of you that live in the Northeast and were out there on Record Store Day waiting in lines and had to deal with the nasty weather, I commend you, and don't know why I did it. It was I kept asking myself, what am I doing here? But in the end of the day, I'm sure I'm going to be very happy with the records that I purchased and the things that I have here. So I want to go over what I got. I got just about everything I wanted, but I do want to kind of put a little stipulation or a star next to that because I want to kind of go over some of my rules of thumb on days like this. And I say days like this because this Record Store Day probably had the most amount of product that I wanted, and I just had to skip out on some of it. So I kind of had to try to pick and choose what I wanted to get. Still had a ton that I bought. So, but basically, there were things like, my general rule of thumb for most of the Record Store Days is I try to avoid the live recordings that are, never before heard vinyl recordings, or I'm sorry, live recordings. I avoid picture discs, and kind of a subset of picture discs that I always avoid are the zoetrope ones that I've just never seemed to get to quite work right to be able to view them the way they should be viewed. One other one that I have actually been trying to stay more away from lately also is first release releases. I think I have maybe one or two, maybe three that are first released that are supposed to be slated to come out later in the year or later. But I usually try to avoid those mostly. One other thing that I looked at this year that I tended to buy usually, but I avoided this time around, is getting releases that are basically things that are taken from a Super Deluxe box set, for example, and they take a snippet of that and release it on record for Record Store Day as a Record Store Day exclusive. So one of those, and I probably should have brought my copy of it that I had, but is Prince Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe box set. Had a Live from Glam Slam record that came out as part of that box set, and I have the I don't even remember how many records. I think it was 9 or 11 record set, but I already have those records. So I didn't feel the need to get the special color version of them when it's the same record. I also avoided a Stone Temple Pilots live in New Haven, Connecticut, which I was a little bit torn about because I do already have it from the Super Deluxe purple Stone Temple Pilots box set already in digital. But I live in Connecticut, so it would have been kind of cool to get a Connecticut-based live recording on vinyl. But I already have it, so I stayed clear of that. So having said all that, what I want to do start off with is I want to start off with kind of the fun little freebie stuff that I got from the record store. We'll start off with they gave out at the record store I went to. They gave out 2 posters. One is kind of a variation of the posters that they always seem to give out every year, basically from Dogfish Head Breweries, and this was a ode to Grateful Dead by the looks of it. A very cool poster. I think Pusshead may have drawn this, who is the guy who did a lot of the kind of earlier Metallica stuff, not the absolute earliest, but some earlier Metallica things. So that was very cool, and this one is actually a super high quality print, so I'm actually very kind of stoked about this one. But it's a Peanuts Record Store Day poster, so we got myself one of those as well. Some of the other tchotchke type things that I got, and you'll have to excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse because I spent a lot of the morning talking to people in line, And, well, my voice is kind of going because of that. So, anyway, got the kind of the typical button that I get for Record Store Day. Has the date of this Record Store Day on it. Also got the ambassador button, which the ambassador for this one was Post Malone. And I actually, that was one of the other records that I skipped for a couple of reasons. He had a tribute to Nirvana, which I was interested in somewhat, but I saw the performance with him and Nirvana, and I was not a big fan of that performance, so I decided to skip the record because it was also a little bit of a pricey purchase as well. But anyways, I digress. I also got a sticker that I think it says record stores, like it says times everybody, I guess. But anyway, there you go. Got that. And then there was a promo CD with a bunch of stuff on it that I really haven't paid all that close attention to, although one of them is a snippet, it looks like, maybe from the one of the albums that came out today. But anyway, yeah, it is. So, and this is it's a Strata East sampler disc. So I got that as well as one of the free giveaways. And then the one that tends to always come about on Record Store Day is a tote. This one actually is much more sturdy than most of the other ones. It's very, very thick fabric as opposed to the thinner fabrics that these usually have. So that was kind of cool. So those are the freebie things I got. So let's go over the actual vinyl that was far from free here. I'll start off with, yes, it's Record Store Day, but I bought a CD. And this one kind of went back to my philosophy of what I tend to avoid on Record Store Day. But I had to get it because it was David Bowie, but it's his live album that he actually put out here for Record Store Day exclusive. They came out with a CD and a record version of this, but I decided to get the CD because it was much cheaper. And this was probably one of my less favorite eras of David Bowie that this performance is from, so didn't feel I wanted to spend the extra money that the vinyl would cost. Next up is Charlie XCX and Billie Eilish, the single Guess. So also Anderson .Paak, Come Down. Record Store Day first. This is one of the firsts, not an exclusive, but one of the other exclusives that I think just about everybody knew about, at least, and I'm sure they're probably going to sell out, even though they made, it almost seems like 100,000 of them or more, but as a Taylor Swift and Post Malone Fortnite release on 7-inch. And then another one. This one is a 2-record 7-inch set, De La Soul, a couple of new tracks with some instrumental tracks on the B-sides, and I don't remember, they're from a specific era, and I can't remember what, but these were songs that were never released, and they're releasing them now for Record Store Day on 7-inch vinyl, so very nice. All right, here are all the 12-inch records that I purchased. First one up is Alts and Outs. It's basically kind of like alternate takes of songs from the Blue Note catalog. One's from Cannonball Adderley, Grant Green, Wayne Shorter, Art Blakey, Jimmy Smith, and Sonny Clark. Pretty excited about this because these are all people that I really like in the jazz world. So that one I thought was a fun one. Another jazz title. This one is Kenny Dorham, Blue Bossa in the Bronx, live from the Blue Morocco. One of the exceptions I made for titles that were live, never before released versions. Hopefully, this will sound good. It's put out by Renaissance Records, which they usually put out some really good stuff. They're the ones, well, it's the same company, but I think a different label name that put out like those Bill Evans ones that come out every year. And I also got another one from that same company that I'm crossing my fingers sounds good as well, because it was the most expensive record that I bought today. Next one up is another Charlie XCX. This one is Number One Angel. It was kind of a mixtape that she put out several years ago, and there's not much to this. You could probably sort of see the the embossed, or not, probably not embossed, but color on color text on this. But basically, she did release this on another record store day with a second mixtape called Pop 2. So there was Number One Angel and Pop 2. I actually do have that one as well, but this is just Number One Angel on its own. All right, next one up. What Happened to My Blues by Willie Dixon. Looking forward to this one. The Ovation puts this one out, and a lot of the stuff I've gotten from Ovation has been pretty good. And I do like Willie Dixon quite a bit, and I've never seen this title before, so really looking forward to checking that one out, as I am all of these, of course. So we go from blues to metal, and that is Black Sabbath, The Eternal Idol. This was later in their career. This is with, I think it's Tony Martin, I believe it was, on vocals, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was the first album that he did with Black Sabbath. So I thought I had this, but at least on CD, but I don't think I do. So I have heard it before, and I do remember liking it, so I'm looking forward to checking out the vinyl version. This next one seems to be one of the more popular or more sought out records that came out today. It seems like most of the people that were at the front of the lines everywhere that I saw videos from, the first person in line was looking for this album, and that is the Wicked soundtrack. This is a special edition with purple, I think it's purple and pink, or green and pink, I'm sorry, records, and they're numbered. They were supposed to be limited to 2,000, but I have a numbered copy, number 2369 for some reason. But anyway, it looks like most places that got this only got a couple of records at most, so it looks like it's already going for big bucks on the different sites like Discogs and eBay and places like that. So, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. It's got a unreleased on vinyl track that was only available digitally, which was Oz Dust Duet. So that was cool. This one, again, it kind of broke my traditional rule of not buying, kind of semi-obscure things, although the way this is worded, it sounds like it has come out in some way, shape, or form before, because it's calling it the complete performance. And it's basically Talking Heads live on tour in Cleveland, Ohio. This one I had a hard time resisting as well, because like that Stone Temple Pilots one from New Haven, Connecticut, this one was done from Cleveland, Ohio, and that's kind of where I grew up. So, and it was at the Agora, I believe it is, yeah, Cleveland's Agora, during the More Songs About Buildings and Food tour. And so I really I can't wait to check this one out, like all the rest of them, of course. All right, back to some jazz. This one is Thelonious Monk live at the It Club. This cover looks really familiar to me, but I couldn't for the life of me find any records or CDs that I already had that had this cover, but I'll probably find one eventually for some reason. It'll show up. But anyways, this was live in 1964 and this was put out by Legacy. So, and it had some pretty good pedigree of people working on the remaster and remix of this. So I look forward to checking that one out, as all of them as usual again. Here is the big one that I spent the most money on, and I certainly hope that it's worth the extra money that I paid, or the amount of money I paid. It is from one of my favorite jazz artists of all time, and it had some great tracks on it. I think this was from 1977, a couple of different recordings from 1977, but it's Mingus in Argentina, a 3-record set with some great tracks on it that was recorded near I think near the time of his death, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, this was a limited edition. I got number 3929 here. Getting near the end here, but still a little ways to go. Next up is another one that was a first release, but pretty interesting one. It's from John Legend, and it's basically outtakes from the Get Lifted era of album, which that album I really, really liked a lot. And these are basically, it looks like 8 songs from that time period that came out that have been previously unreleased. I know that they released a kind of a deluxe edition of get lifted, and this is probably on that. But I can only seem to find it on his website. I haven't been able to find it anywhere else, but maybe this will get released again because it is a first edition or first release. Maybe they'll release it again later in the year. But anyways, this one was very, very cool. And what made it even cooler, I'll show you in a little bit. But basically, I really like pinball. I have actually gone to the pinball, I think it's called the Hall of Fame or Pinball Museum in Las Vegas. They've changed the name of it over the years, and I forget what it's called now. But I've been there, checked out all the pinball machines there. It was very cool. And this kind of combines my love for pinball and my love for metal. It's the pinball game Black Knights, and it's the soundtrack to that pinball machine. And what makes this unique is it's got Scott Ian from Anthrax, the guitarist from Anthrax, Scott Ian, and the other guy I don't recognize. It's Brenton Small from Deathlock. I know Deathlock, but I'm not too familiar with him very much. But this is a first release also, but it's on purple armor colored vinyl, they say. The other kind of interesting thing, and I'm not sure how well it's going to show on the camera, but there's kind of this cool little sticker. If you can see that red sticker in the bottom corner, it's basically a genuine Bally pinball machine parts, I think is what they call it. So I thought that was kind of a cool little sticker that's on there. But I've heard a little bit of the soundtrack. I think a lot of it's instrumental, but it's really going to be exciting to check it out and listen to it because I love Scott Ian and his work quite a bit. So it'll be very cool to have that. All right, last and I don't know if I'd necessarily say least or anything of that sort, but it's still kind of a cool one. And I have the regular version of this album, but this is what they call Iced Tea, and it's Power Rarities. Basically, it looks like it's, extended remixes and instrumental versions of the songs, the more popular songs from the Power LP that he put out way back in the early days of him releasing music. So this is a great album, and I look forward to checking out all the instrumentals and the remixes that are on this one. So that is my haul. As you can see, it was quite a bit of stuff. And there was a lot of stuff that I did not get. I've already told you about a couple of them. There was a Sun Ra release. That was a first release, so there's going to be more, or it's going to be reissued later in the year. There was a couple of other things that were part of deluxe edition CD sets that got put out on the vinyl, like a Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak alternative versions album, and a couple of other things that I really kind of wanted, but I already spent a lot more than I wanted to. So, but I'm pretty happy with the stuff I got. There was only one thing that I was not able to get at my local store. They didn't have it. It was called Dada Puzzle. I know that there was very limited supply of those, so I'm hoping I can possibly get it, and I'm certainly not going to spend outrageous money on it, but that album was an album that I used a lot to demo audio gear when I used to sell audio gear for a living. But unfortunately I was not able to obtain the vinyl version of it. Still have the CD version, but it would have been nice to have the vinyl version. But cross my fingers, maybe I'll be able to find it on the marketplace next, I guess tomorrow or the next day or whatever. But anyway, that is everything I got for the vinyl haul for Record Store Day. Be very curious to see what you guys got, how you made out, what the weather was like in your area, in your neck of the woods. Did you guys have crazy weather where you were at? Did you have crazy lines where you were at? We certainly had some of the longer lines I've ever seen. Although I would say it was probably about the same kind of a length of line for just about every time Taylor Swift has something that's coming out for Record Store Day. So this time around, it looks like everybody is probably going to be able to get the Taylor Swift release that they want. It looks like there were probably at least 100,000 copies pressed. So anyway, that was everything I had. I was very interested to hear what you guys got there, and we can certainly talk about that in the comment section of this video. So thank you very much for watching. I want to thank you for subscribing if you subscribe. If you don't, please do so. I'd love to see some new subscribers. Hit that like button. Let me know what you liked the video. And that's it. I want to thank you very much. I want you to have yourself a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Thanks a lot, everybody.